picture this. You're standing outside, surrounded by these massive, towering, snow-covered evergreen trees.
Oh, that sounds beautiful.
Right. The air is crisp, and the landscape is just completely blanketed in this pristine, glittering white snow.
Like a postcard.
Exactly like a postcard. And you're wearing this stunning outfit wrapped in an elegant faux fur shawl, and, your absolute favorite people in the world are gathered around you.
Holding mugs of steaming mulled wine, I imagine.
Yes. Mulled wine, the glow of a warm fire, catching the twilight in the background. I mean, it is the quintessential magical fairy tale winter wedding. It just sounds absolutely perfect, doesn't it?
It does. It creates this really beautiful cinematic image in your mind. But there is a massive gulf between a beautiful image and a functional event.
Which is exactly where the movie pauses and reality hits.
Yeah, a harsh reality.
Because while you are picturing the mulled wine, you aren't really picturing the logistics, are you? Like, how did 50 of your friends actually get up that mountain?
Right, where are they sleeping?
Exactly. Or, who is coordinating the transportation when a sudden blizzard just grounds all the flights?
Or what happens when your photographer realizes they actually don't know how to balance the exposure against blinding white snow?
Oh, wow, yeah. And suddenly your fairy tale photos look like, I don't know, a blown out white screen.
It happens so often. Suddenly that cozy fairy tale reveals itself to be this massive, daunting logistical puzzle.
And that is the trap that, so many couples fall into.
Because planning a winter wedding isn't just about selecting a pretty snowy backdrop. It requires a fundamentally different level of strategic, almost environmental thinking.
The margins for error are just simply much smaller when the temperature drops below freezing.
They really are. You can't just wing it.
And that brings us to our mission for today's deep dive. We are tackling the ultimate winter wedding debate for anyone looking at a mountain destination.
The Colorado Mountains versus the Alberta Resorts in Canada.
That's the one. To do this, we're using an incredibly detailed expert guide that we found. And we really want to try to focus on how to use the Weddizer website for venue selection purposes so you can find the best place for your wedding events.
It's such a valuable tool.
It really is. We're getting all this guidance through the articles section on their website, which is amazing for anything related to niche venue selection, because when you are dealing with freezing temperatures, high altitudes, and mountain peaks,
you need a deep understanding of the environment.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this. Because on the surface, someone might look at Colorado and Alberta and just think, mountains, snow, pine trees. What is the actual difference?
What's fascinating here is that as you read through the Weddizer analysis, you quickly realize Colorado and Alberta aren't just two different locations on a map.
Right.
They represent two entirely opposing philosophies of what a winter wedding can actually be.
It's like you're essentially choosing between vibrant, lively accessibility and this highly curated, untouched elegance.
Exactly. Before we even get into the hard logistics of the venues, we really have to understand the visual and cultural canvas we're working with.
So let's start with Colorado. The Weddizer guide describes places like Aspen, Vail, and Breckenridge as having these dramatic peaks, rich evergreen forests, and that famous fluffy powdery snow.
Yeah, the aesthetic in Colorado is really built around active, vibrant energy.
Like a lived-in beauty.
Exactly. The source highlights panoramic mountain views and glowing sunsets reflecting off the peaks, but you are in towns that are bustling, dynamic, and totally centered around mountain culture.
It feels grand, but it also feels very social.
Highly social.
Contrast that with Alberta, Canada, places like Banff and Lake Louise. The guide points to crystal clear frozen lakes, towering mountains, and pristine forests.
But the vocabulary shifts dramatically there.
It really does. The guide uses words like untouched, serene, and cinematic.
Right.
So I was trying to conceptualize this, and I came up with an analogy. Tell me if this tracks.
Let's hear it.
If Colorado is a vibrant, blockbuster movie-like, the kind with big, sweeping drone shots, a massive soundtrack, and tons of extras in the background, is Alberta more like stepping into a quiet, private, indie, cinematic masterpiece where you are the only people in the world?
That's actually great. The analogy holds up really well for the visual aesthetic, but the mechanics behind why they look different are what you really need to understand.
Okay, lay on me.
Alberta's natural beauty feels more isolated and tranquil, largely because of environmental protections.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, places like Banff are situated within strictly protected national parks, The laws governing development there are incredibly rigid.
So you just can't build massive, sprawling commercial ski villages in the same way you can in some parts of the U.S.
Precisely. You simply can't.
Though I actually want to push back on that word untouched for a second,
Okay.
because when I read untouched in the guide, my brain immediately goes to, well, does that mean there is nothing to do?
That's a fair point.
If I'm asking 50 of my closest friends to fly to a mountain, I kind of want the environment to be well touched.
Right, you want amenities.
Yeah, I want restaurants, things to keep people entertained. Does untouched just mean boring?
It's a common concern. But looking at the Weddizer data, untouched refers strictly to the preservation of the landscape, not a lack of hospitality.
Oh, gotcha.
In Alberta, you're getting heavily curated luxury placed right on the edge of protected wilderness.
So you get pristine nature specifically because it's legally protected from looking like a bustling ski town.
Exactly. You have the illusion of being at the edge of the wild earth, but you're actually sitting inside a five-star resort.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. The fundamental difference is the energy of the environment.
Colorado offers a dramatic, lively backdrop where nature and town blend seamlessly.
While Alberta offers a serene, private sanctuary surrounded by wild nature.
That perfectly bridges us to the next massive piece of the puzzle,
Eh.
because a beautiful protected mountain is really only half the equation.
Right, the venue itself dictates how you and your guests are actually going to experience that mountain.
The environment provides the raw materials, but the venue is the engine that drives the guest experience.
So let's look at the venue options Weddizer lays out for Colorado. The sheer diversity is wild.
It really is.
You've got luxury ski resorts with all-inclusive packages. You have rustic, standalone lodges with giant stone fireplaces.
And you can even book a mountaintop ceremony space where your guests literally have to ride a gondola up the mountain to watch you say your vows.
Which sounds so cool.
Mm.
And then down in the town, there are smaller boutique hotels for intimate settings.
And all of this is wrapped up in that après-ski culture.
Yeah, the skiing, snowboarding, nightlife, bustling parties.
Which means the infrastructure is built around constant entertainment and movement. Your guests in Colorado can easily step out of the venue and find a dozen different restaurants, bars, or ski lifts within walking distance.
So the guest experience is heavily decentralized.
Very much so.
And then we look at the venue landscape in Alberta. The Weddizer article points out that Alberta primarily focuses on high-end, immersive luxury resorts.
It's significantly less of a mix-and-match approach.
Right. You're looking at iconic lakeside ceremonies right on the frozen lakes, followed by receptions in these massive, grand ballrooms with towering windows looking out at the mountains.
And the activities shift entirely.
Yeah, instead of hitting crowded ski slopes and going bar hopping, Alberta resorts offer dog sledding, ice skating, private sleigh rides, and deep spa and wellness retreats.
The guide calls it the remote retreat vibe. Think about the mechanics of why those grand ballrooms exist in Alberta.
Because it's freezing.
Yes. The outside environment in the Canadian Rockies is exceptionally harsh in the winter. The resorts are designed to be self-contained sanctuaries.
So the nature is the ceremony space, but the grand ballroom is the refuge.
Exactly. The luxury is insulated and inward-facing rather than outward-facing like a Colorado ski town.
Here's where it gets really interesting. With Colorado having all these diverse, customizable options, from rustic lodges to boutique hotels to renting out gondolas, does that actually make the planning process much harder?
It certainly adds a layer of complexity.
I was reading this and thinking about decision fatigue. If I have 50 different combinations of vendors and venues in Colorado, that sounds exhausting.
It can be overwhelming for sure.
Whereas Alberta's focus on this all-inclusive, full-service luxury resort model seems to ensure a much more seamless plug-and-play experience. It feels like comparing an a la carte menu to a chef's tasting menu.
That is an excellent way to frame it. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, it fundamentally alters your budget structure and your role as a planner.
How so?
The Weddizer Guide breaks down the pricing models, and it's a brilliant lesson in event economics. In Colorado, that massive diversity of venues, your a la carte menu, gives you tremendous budget flexibility.
Because you can pick and choose?
Right. You can book a midweek wedding at a boutique hotel, hire an independent local caterer, and completely customize your costs.
It requires a lot more legwork, and you're managing more moving parts, but you have absolute control over the final number.
So you can essentially hack the system in Colorado if you're willing to put in the administrative hours to build the event piece by piece.
Yeah.
But Alberta operates on the tasting menu model. These are premium-priced luxury resorts. You're surrendering control to the venue.
Right.
However, they provide highly inclusive packages. The upfront cost might induce a bit of sticker shock, but the overall value is exceptionally high.
Because you're getting exclusivity, full-service in-house wedding planning, and an immersive environment where the resort just handles everything.
Exactly. The catering, the rentals, the guest activities. You are paying a premium for a seamless, curated environment where everything is handled under one roof.
Okay, so Colorado gives you the flexibility to build your own adventure and control your budget, while Alberta hands you a fully realized, exclusive world where you just show up and let them take over.
That's the core difference.
But here is the ultimate reality check.
Oh boy, here it comes.
All the luxury, the flexibility, the beautiful grand ballrooms, and the a la carte menus absolutely do not matter if your guests cannot actually get there.
True.
Or if they arrive and are absolutely miserable because they are freezing. Which brings us to the cold, hard logistics.
This is usually the exact moment where the romantic fairy tale hits a very solid brick wall for most couples.
The Weddizer article is incredibly clear about the travel factor. Colorado is highly accessible. They have a massive, well-developed infrastructure and easy travel, largely thanks to Denver International Airport.
Yeah, having a major global hub makes a huge difference.
Right, you have guests flying in, and the ground transport up to the mountains is a well-oiled machine with established shuttles and highways.
But Alberta is explicitly described as more remote. Travel there is complex.
You're likely flying into Calgary, which has fewer direct international flights, and then you are coordinating a much longer, more isolated drive into the mountains to reach places like Banff or Lake Louise.
It offers a unique destination feel, but it demands significantly more effort from your guests.
And it's not just the physical distance.
No, it's the psychological toll on the guest.
Yeah.
Multi-leg journeys in winter conditions can be stressful.
Totally. Alberta Resorts counter this with immediate, high-touch hospitality upon arrival.
You have
But
to get them there first.
exactly. And then there is the climate reality, which is the starkest contrast of all. I was reading the climate breakdown, and Colorado winters are described as cold, obviously, but manageable.
Manageable is the key word there.
You have consistent snow, but Colorado also gets a huge amount of sunny days. The sun comes out, the UV rays reflect off the snow, and you actually feel quite warm during the day.
But Alberta.
Yeah, the guide notes that Alberta drops well below freezing. We are talking about an intense, unapologetic, deep freeze winter condition.
The latitudinal difference is immense. Alberta offers an authentic, profound winter experience, but the cold is aggressive.
So I have to challenge this, just putting myself in the shoes of someone planning this right now.
Go for it.
At what point does the dream of an exclusive, remote, untouched Alberta destination become just too much of an inconvenience for the people you love?
It's a very real concern.
If you're asking your grandmother or your friends with young kids to take multiple flights, figure out complex ground transport, and then stand outside in temperatures well below zero, do you risk your guests just being miserable compared to the ease and sunny slopes of Colorado?
This raises an important question, and it is the absolute crux of destination wedding planning. The balance between your aesthetic vision and your guests' physical comfort.
How do you even balance that?
Well, the Weddizer Guide doesn't say one location is inherently better, but it is adamant that Alberta's extreme cold requires highly active logistical engineering.
Logistical engineering, I like that phrase.
You cannot just invite people to Alberta, point them to a frozen lake, and hope they enjoy themselves.
Right, hope is not a strategy when it's 5 degrees outside.
Exactly. You have to engineer their comfort. This means utilizing the microclimates created by the resorts.
Microclimates.
Yeah. These luxury venues in Alberta often have strategically designed outdoor spaces with natural windbreaks, heated subflooring under the ceremony spaces, and heavy-duty outdoor heating.
Oh, wow. Heated subflooring outside.
Yes. They make the hostile environment survivable, even pleasant, for a 20-minute ceremony before ushering everyone back into that sanctuary ballroom.
That makes total sense.
If you provide that level of guidance and accommodation, the remote journey to Alberta becomes part of the magic.
Yeah.
But it demands rigorous, intentional preparation.
Which brings us perfectly to the final section of our deep dive. Because regardless of whether you choose the sunny, accessible slopes of Colorado or the deep freeze luxury of Alberta, you still have to battle the winter elements.
You do. Winter always wins if you're not prepared.
This is where leaning on a niche resource like the Weddizer article section becomes invaluable. The guide actually provides a literal winter survival guide for the big day. offering tactical advice to ensure your event doesn't turn into a logistical freeze-out.
Because again, it is all about mitigating the environmental factors so the beauty of the day can actually shine through.